My name's Mark. I was working overnight security at a warehouse in Joliet, Illinois in 2020. It was spring 2020, around 3:45 a.m. COVID had emptied everything out. Fewer trucks, fewer workers. Nights were repetitive by design. Gates, locks, trailers, fence lines. Boredom was the goal. Anything interesting meant paperwork. 10 minutes earlier, I'd driven down the narrow back lane that runs between two rows of trailers and the fence. It's just wide enough for the patrol vehicle. You creep through, shine the light, and loop back out. When I came around again, my headlights hit a pickup truck parked sideways across the lane. I slowed to a stop, headlights on the truck. No hazards, no interior light, no engine noise. It hadn't been there 10 minutes ago. I knew that for sure. I grabbed the radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 2. I've got an unknown pickup blocking the south back lane. Can you confirm if anyone's authorized down here?" No one answered, but unfortunately, this happened more often than it should have. I logged it anyway. Unknown vehicle blocking lane. Investigating. Typing the word investigating felt wrong the second I hit enter. I swept the spotlight across the truck. Grill, windshield, tires. No visible plate from where I sat. The windshield looked dark, tinted. Then I saw movement. A man stepped out from between the trailers on my right, already on foot like he'd been waiting for my headlights to stop. He didn't wave, didn't look surprised, didn't act lost. He just started walking toward me. I switched into my work voice. "Hey, this area's closed. You need to turn around." He didn't answer. He just kept coming. I hit the spotlight again, a little higher, aiming for his face. The light caught the brim of a cap and the edge of a hood. His face stayed mostly hidden. He flinched slightly at the brightness but didn't stop. Nothing about him felt drunk or confused. I checked behind me. I could reverse, but barely. Trailers boxed me in. If I clipped something, I'd be stuck. Being stuck felt like the worst option. "Sir," I said louder, "stop right there." As you can imagine, he didn't. He reached my driver's side window and stopped just outside the strongest light, close enough that I could see his outline, but not close enough to see his face. Then he spoke, calm, like we were coworkers. "Pop the door." "Not happening," I said. He didn't react. He just stood there, waiting like time was on his side. I put the car in reverse. The tires squealed lightly on grit as I backed up. That's when the truck blocking the lane moved, just half a car length, tightening the angle enough to kill the gap I'd been eyeing as an escape. Someone was inside it. At that moment, everything lined up. 2 people, 2 positions, 1 narrow lane. I leaned on the horn, full blast. I flicked the high beams, spotlight, hazards, anything to make noise, anything to pull attention. I backed up until my rear bumper was almost kissing a trailer corner. Then I stopped and shifted into drive. He stood there like he wanted me to choose between hitting him or staying trapped. I turned the wheel hard toward the narrow gap between 2 trailers and hit the gas. The tires spun, then caught. The vehicle lurched forward. My side mirror scraped something, but I didn't let up. Paint didn't matter. As I squeezed through, the man slapped the rear quarter panel. Hard. I burst into the open lot under brighter lights and didn't stop until I was near the front of the building, parked under a camera pole. My hands were steady, but my shoulders felt locked up near my ears. I looked back. No man, no truck, just trailers and empty pavement. The radio worked fine when I tried it again. Daylight didn't bring answers. No plates, no usable footage. Cameras missed the angle. My supervisor shrugged it off as someone hunting scrap. If you ask me, I think the worst part was how calm he was while he boxed me in. At 4 a.m, you don't get customers. You get situations. I was working nights at a gas station off one of those Bakersfield roads that's packed all day and empty once the sun goes down. I'd been on graveyard long enough to build rules you don't write down. Keep the counter between you and them. Watch hands, not faces. Don't argue. Say your line. Repeat it. That night, I was mopping near the coffee station. Morning shift wasn't due for another hour. I hadn't seen anyone in a while. Then the bell rang. A man walked in and stopped directly under the lights, completely still, like he'd frozen. I straightened up without thinking. "Morning," I said. He didn't answer. Blinked slowly, then drifted toward the counter with soft, careful steps, like he was trying not to make noise. I moved behind the register and did my scan. Hoodie up, jeans, sneakers, hands empty, no bag, normal enough that it bothered me. He stopped at the counter and pointed toward the beer cooler. "Need a tall can." "We can't sell alcohol right now," I said. "It's 4. He frowned like I'd confused him. "What?" "After hours. We stop at 2. He leaned forward an inch. "Just 1. "No." He stared at me for a second, nodded like he understood, then turned and wandered toward the snack aisle. I watched him in the convex mirror. He picked things up, put them back. Chips, gum, lighter, like he was trying on the role of being a customer. He came back and slid the gum and lighter across the counter one at a time. "That's it?" he asked. "Yeah." "And the beer?" "No." "Why not?" "Law." He tapped the counter. "But I'm paying." "I still can't sell it." He kept asking, changing the wording each time, like no was a puzzle he hadn't solved yet. While I rang him up, he edged closer, not into my space exactly, but closer. He looked toward the side gate behind the counter. That got my attention. Most people never notice that gate. He noticed it immediately. He stepped sideways, pretending to look at Candy, but his eyes were tracking the register. The gate, then me. This wasn't confusion. It was performance. He leaned on the counter. "You the only one here?" I didn't answer. He smiled. "Thought so." He went back to browsing, but closer now. Brought items up one at a time. Each scan meant I had to look down. He kept checking the gate. When I slid the receipt over, he asked casually, "Got a manager? Cameras?" I didn't answer. He nodded. "Where's the button?" That one slipped through my poker face. Just a flicker, but he saw it. "Forget it," he said, like I was the one being weird. Then the act dropped. "You're gonna make this hard?" he asked quietly. I already told you no. His right hand slid into his hoodie pocket, like he was gripping something. I moved my left hand under the counter, slow, toward the panic button. His eyes snapped down instantly. "Don't do that." I lifted my hand where he could see it. "I'm not." He held eye contact, then looked at the door, like he was checking time. Then he said my name, not from a name tag. I wasn't wearing one. "Relax, Chris," he said. That wasn't my name, but the confidence behind it made my skin tighten. He stepped closer, opened the gate. I didn't move. He stared at me, then suddenly swept the small items into his arms and backed toward the door without breaking eye contact. Before turning, he leaned in and said, "I'll see you tomorrow." Then he ran. I locked the door, hit the panic button, and called 911. I didn't care about policy anymore. The cops came, took a report, walked the lot, asked if I saw his face, and that was it. Nothing happened the next day, or the day after. That was worse, because when someone says they'll be back and doesn't show, you don't feel safe. You feel scheduled. I stayed on nights for a few more months, but I stopped leaving the counter. I locked every back door. I watched hands before faces, and I learned something important. The dangerous ones aren't always loud. Sometimes they're acting confused, until you stop playing along. This happened while I was working night audit at a mid-range hotel in Tucson. Not luxury, not sketchy. Business travelers, families, conference spillover. Quiet most nights. Predictable. That was the appeal of night audit. The rules were clear, and if you followed them, nothing unexpected happened. I was behind the desk, reconciling charges, printing reports, and sipping coffee. The automatic doors opened once in a while when the AC kicked on hard enough to trip the sensor. Otherwise, the lobby was still. Then the doors opened for real. A man walked in like he belonged there. Business casual, clean shoes, polo tucked in, confident stride. He didn't look around like a guest. He stopped at the desk at exactly the distance someone used to counter stops and said calmly, "I'm here for a late compliance check. Don't call anyone. It'll just complicate it." The sentence flipped a switch in my head I didn't like admitting existed, the one trained to respond to authority before questioning it. "Okay," I said automatically. Then I caught myself. "Do you have ID?" He smiled, like I'd passed something. Of course. He tapped the lanyard hanging from his neck. The badge was turned backward. Brand standards. Random audit. The wording was almost right. That bothered me. "What's your name?" I asked. "Dale," he said. "Regional." Nobody with real authority introduces themselves as regional. They give departments, offices, last names. But then he dropped something that set off that tight feeling in my gut. "Jason knows I'm out here," he said. "He's been behind on safety logs." Jason was our operations manager. I didn't react, just nodded. "Jason's not here tonight," I said. "I know," he replied. "That's why I'm talking to you." He pulled out his phone and flashed a document. Logo, bullet points, checkboxes. He didn't let me read it, just showed it long enough for my brain to register official. "I need access to employee-only areas," he said. "Stairwell latch, linen cage, back office door." "We don't allow guests back there," I said. "I'm not a guest." "I still need ID." He watched my hands instead of my face. "That's good," he said, approving. "You're procedural, but be smart about this." He gestured at the cameras above the lobby. "You cooperate. This stays clean. You make it difficult, it becomes refusal to comply. That's a write-up situation." The tone stayed friendly. That was the point. I dealt with angry guests before. Loud people. Drunks. Their threat is obvious. This felt different. Administrative. Career-shaped. "I'm calling my manager," I said evenly. "If you wake him up," he said, "you're the problem, not me." We stared at each other. "Dale," I said. "What's your last name?" He exhaled like I was wasting time. "We do audits late because night shift shows reality," he said. "Day shift hides everything. You know that." That was the second almost right thing. He looked toward the hallway behind the desk, the staff corridor. "Let's just knock it out," he said. "Master key, 2 minutes." "No," I said. Firm and final. "Okay," he said, hands up. "No keys, just open the staff door so I can verify the latch and take a photo. You can stand right there." It sounded reasonable. I told myself I was still in control. I wasn't handing him keys. I wasn't leaving the desk, just opening a door. I stepped out from behind the counter. The staff door sits behind the desk, leading to a narrow corridor. Employee restroom, linen closet, back office. The lobby camera doesn't see down there unless you're already inside. I swiped my badge and cracked the door open. That's when he moved. He slipped through the gap fast, too fast for someone documenting anything. Then I saw his hands. Black gloves. Not winter gloves. Not casual. The kind you wear to avoid leaving prints. No clipboard, no flashlight, no equipment. He looked down the corridor like he was measuring distance. Then he turned back to me and said calmly, "You can go back to the desk. I'll lock up." Something in my head shut off and something else took over. Pure problem solving. "No," I said. "You can step back out." He smiled again. "You're doing great," he said. "Don't make this weird." It wasn't reassurance, it was control. I didn't argue. I backed away slowly, letting the door drift wider instead of slamming it. Slamming would escalate. If he grabbed it, if he shoved, I retreated to the desk like I was complying. Then I picked up the phone and hit the back office line. Deadline at night, but it lit up on the system. It looked real. I spoke loudly. "Hey," I said, casual on purpose. "Can you come up front? I've got a situation." "Yeah." "Lobby." I let the word situation hang. He turned toward the corridor. Urgency replaced calm instantly. He moved deeper down the hallway with fast steps. I stayed at the desk, phone to my ear, one hand under the counter over the silent alarm. I pressed it. A soft click. Nothing else. I heard a door latch being tested, then footsteps again, moving away. The lobby doors opened and closed a minute later. When security arrived, we searched everything. Nothing missing. No damage. But an employee-only door at the far end was unlatched. Police took notes. Cameras showed him entering, talking to me, stepping into the staff corridor, and then disappearing. My supervisor shrugged the next day. Probably a scammer, he said, looking for an unlocked room. I didn't argue. He didn't want the lobby. He wanted the parts of the building nobody watches. And I opened the door for him because he knew the script better than I did. It was one of those shifts where time felt thick. The store was closed, the parking lot outside was empty, and inside we were running on caffeine and jokes that weren't funny unless it was after midnight. I worked nights stocking shelves at a big retail store in Oregon. Unload the truck, sort pallets, push product, base shelves, clock out. The crew had a habit of messing with each other. Nothing serious. Hiding box cutters, switching gloves, dumb stuff to stay awake. I hated it, but I dealt with it. That night, I came back from the break room, cutting through the back corridor like always. Past receiving, past the baler, past the rear doors that led to the loading dock. Then I saw the rear door was cracked open, maybe an inch. My first thought was another joke, another gotcha. That door never opened unless someone made it open. And it definitely didn't just sit there breathing winter into the building. I shoved it shut. It clicked, but the sound didn't feel right. I tried the handle, unlocked. That's when the anger really kicked in. Because an unlocked door isn't a prank. It's a problem. It's paperwork. It's blame. I locked it properly, then pulled on it hard, just to be sure. I texted the crew group chat, who left the rear door unlocked? Not funny. The replies came fast. LOL, my bad. Relax. Didn't think you'd notice. Laughing emojis. No one taking it seriously. I locked my phone and told myself to drop it. I didn't want to be the paranoid one. I went back to my aisle. About 40 minutes later, I heard a sound from the back, like something brushed against something else and stopped. I paused with a box in my hands, listening. There was nothing after that. No laughter, no steps, no sorry. That's when I stopped being angry and started paying attention. I walked back toward receiving, not calling out. I didn't want to give anyone the satisfaction. The corridor was empty. I looked at the small security monitor near the manager's office. The cameras were always bad, but this time the back hallway feed wasn't dark. It was static, not pointing at nothing. Static. I leaned closer and tapped the monitor, like that ever helped. Still static. Then I noticed something on the floor near the receiving door. A pack of gum. I picked it up and turned it over. It felt stupid how loud the wrapper sounded in that quiet space. I scanned the room. Nothing else was out of place. I told myself it was nothing. That lasted about 10 seconds. A step sounded behind me. I turned slowly. The corridor behind me was empty, but the feeling didn't leave. That awareness stayed, tight and specific, like I just missed eye contact with someone. I took a breath and walked deeper into receiving, trying to keep things normal. But then I saw a figure standing near the far pallets, almost hidden by shrink-wrapped boxes. Not wearing anything recognizable, not moving like an employee, just standing, turned toward the door like they were listening. We looked at each other. Neither of us spoke. I took one step back. That's when something metal hit the wall near my head. It wasn't dropped. It was thrown. The sound cracked through the space, echoing, and the object skittered across the floor. Some kind of heavy metal piece, close enough to make the point. I turned and ran. I sprinted toward the stockroom door, fumbling my keys as I went. I slammed the door and threw the deadbolt. Then the latch, then my weight. The handle jerked once. I pressed my shoulder into the door, my phone already in my hand. I called my manager first because my brain was still stuck in work mode. He didn't answer. So I called 911. I kept my voice low, explaining what was happening while listening to the space on the other side of the door. After the handle jerked, there was silence. The kind that feels intentional, like the person on the other side of the door was also listening to my side. By the time police arrived, the building was quiet again. They found the metal piece. They found the gum. They found no one. The rear door was locked when they checked it. Whoever it was had time to leave the same way they came in and lock it behind them. My coworkers were shaken for about 5 minutes. Apologetic. Awkward. Then it shifted into something easier. Probably kids. Probably someone just messing around. My manager talked about reminders, procedures, cameras. I stood there listening, realizing how close nothing happened comes to meaning we don't want to think about it. I went home after sunrise and stood in my kitchen with my work shoes still on, replaying the sound of that metal hitting the wall. The way the footsteps had changed when I ran. The way the handle jerked, like someone trying to decide how hard to pull. I tried to go back to work after that. I really did. But every time I passed that corridor, I thought about how easy it was. One unlocked door, one blind camera, one person alone because staffing runs thin at night. I quit 2 weeks later. The thing that still makes me angry isn't that someone came in. It's that they didn't have to break anything to do it. Someone left the door unlocked on purpose, and all it took was one night for that joke to become an entry point. I'd been working convenience stores long enough to know what normal weird looked like. Late night customers stick around, they talk too much, they wander aisles like they forgot why they came in. You learn the difference between someone who's just tired and someone who's trying to wear you down. That night, I was running the late shift as the supervisor. It was supposed to be me and one cashier until close, but around 10:30, she said she wasn't feeling well and asked if she could head out early. We were slow. I didn't want to be the kind of manager who forces someone to stay when they're pale and sweating. So I let her go. As soon as the door shut behind her, the store felt bigger. That always happens. A convenience store is basically a glass hallway full of light. When it's staffed, it feels busy. When it's just you, it feels exposed. I went into tightened routine mode. Counters clear, register balanced, phone charged, non-emergency number pulled up, because sometimes you don't want to jump straight to 911. Sometimes you're still trying to convince yourself nothing's wrong. Around 11:20, a guy came in. Nothing that stood out. No hoodie pulled low, no pacing. He nodded at me, grabbed a sports drink, a bag of chips, and a couple scratch-offs. Work boots, jeans, ball cap. Mid-30s, maybe. Long night? He asked. Almost done, I said. He paid in cash. I gave him change out of habit, and he told me to keep it. Then he didn't leave. He drifted back toward the aisles like he'd forgotten something, stood in front of the medicine section, opened the beer cave, stared inside, closed it without grabbing anything, came back with a candy bar, then a lighter, then gum. Each time he made small talk, normal phrases, friendly tone. But his eyes kept sliding past me, toward the office door behind the counter. I watched him without staring. You don't want to make it a challenge, but you don't want to ignore someone who's circling either. By 11:45, I started my closing steps early. I didn't announce it, I just moved faster. Less noise, coffee dumped, rollers cleaned, counters wiped. I did my first closing sweep. The store had 3 main aisles and 2 blind spots. One behind a tall chip display near the bathrooms, and another in the back corner where shelves formed a narrow channel. I didn't see him. I went back to the counter, expecting to catch him pushing out the door. The front was empty. I stood there replaying the last 10 minutes in my head, trying to catch the moment he must have left. I told myself I missed it, that he slipped out while I was in the back, that my brain was looking for a problem because I was alone. I almost locked the door without checking again. Almost. Instead, I did a second sweep, paying more attention now. When I reached the chip aisle, something moved. I stopped. Everything sounded normal, but it felt like someone was listening. "We're closed in 15, I called. Just a heads up." No answer. I took a step toward the bathrooms. That's when I heard movement again, but it was close. Too close. I turned fast. At the end of the aisle, I saw a shape, low, crouched, pulling back like it was trying to disappear into the shelves. That was the point my brain stopped trying to talk itself out of it. I didn't ask who was there. I didn't step forward. I backed up. Slow at first because you don't want to trigger anything, then faster because slow feels impossible once you know someone's hiding. I got behind the counter, grabbed my keys, and went straight for the office. The door was heavy, solid. My hands were clumsy, but I got it locked. From inside, I shut off the store music. The silence that followed was immediate and wrong. Without music, every sound stood out. The coolers, the lights, the building settling. Then I heard a step, just one step, then another. I stared at the camera monitor. The angles were bad. Counter, door, a distant view of the aisles that flattened everything. Nothing moved on screen. I called the police anyway. I didn't say someone's hiding. I said what I could prove. I'm alone. I did a closing sweep. I saw movement. I'm locked in the office. While I was on the phone, I heard something that made my whole body lock up. A scrape, soft and slow, against the office door. I held my breath, then forced myself to breathe quietly because my own breathing sounded too loud. The dispatcher told me officers were on the way. Stay where you are. The scraping stopped. That silence was worse. Silence means thinking. Silence means choosing. I stayed in that office for what felt like an hour. It was probably 10 minutes. My phone battery dropped faster than it should have. When the officers arrived and knocked, I didn't rush out. I waited until I saw them on camera. Twice. They searched everything. Bathrooms, back corner, beer cave, behind shelves. They found nothing. One officer suggested it could have been an animal. The other didn't say much at all. They left. The store felt empty in a way that didn't feel safe. Empty meant nowhere to look. I finished closing with all the lights on and drove home watching every reflection in my mirrors. The next day, my manager asked if I was good. I told him what happened. He nodded and said, "That's wild," and moved on. A few days later, while restocking, I found something. A candy wrapper tucked behind paper towels in the back corner. The same brand the guy bought. I remembered ringing it up. It wasn't there before. I knew that section. He didn't hide because he was afraid. He hid because he was waiting until it was just a building. And just me. If you noticed how every story crossed the line before anyone realized they were in danger, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss the next nightmare, and let me know which story got under your skin. And if dating apps still feel safe to you, you haven't watched this channel enough. Click now to watch 4 really disturbing catfish dating stories, because some matches don't ghost you. They follow you home. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.